1981, a small town in Connecticut became the center of one of the strangest and most horrifying murder trials in American history. A young man killed his landlord in cold blood. But when he stood before the court, he said something that stunned the nation. "The devil made me do it." This case inspired books, documentaries, and eventually Hollywood's blockbuster hit, The Conjuring 3. But the truth, the real story, is far darker, more twisted, and more tragic than the movie ever dared to show. Tonight, we're going to peel back the lies, the myths, and the chilling manipulations behind the devil made me do it case. Was it truly the work of demons? Or was it the greatest con in paranormal history? Part 1. The background of darkness. Our story begins not with murder, but with a haunting. Brookfield, Connecticut, summer of 1980. The Glatzel family had just moved into a modest rental home. For 11-year-old David Glatzel, it was supposed to be a new beginning, but soon it became a living nightmare. David began to see things, horrifying visions. He described an old man with charred skin, sunken black eyes, and hooves instead of feet. The figure threatened him, whispering promises of violence and damnation. At night, David's screams echoed through the house. He writhed in bed, claiming invisible hands were clawing at him. His once peaceful demeanor twisted into violent outbursts. He growled. He cursed in voices not his own. The Glatzel family was terrified. They turned not to doctors, but to demonologists, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Part 2. The Warrens enter. Ed and Lorraine Warren were no strangers to darkness. Self-proclaimed demonologists, they had built a reputation by investigating some of America's most notorious hauntings: the Amityville Horror, the Perron family haunting, and the Enfield poltergeist. But skeptics claimed they were frauds, opportunists who preyed on frightened families to spin ghost stories into fame and fortune. When the Warrens arrived at the Glatzel home, they immediately declared, "This boy is possessed." According to their account, priests were summoned. Exorcisms were attempted. David's behavior grew worse. He spoke in guttural voices. He hissed blasphemies. His small body contorted in unnatural ways. The Warrens claimed they witnessed David levitate and even predict future events. But perhaps the most chilling moment came during one of these rituals. 19-year-old Arne Johnson, David's sister's boyfriend, confronted the entity. Arne shouted into the void, "Leave him alone. Take me instead." And according to the Warrens, the demon obeyed. Part 3. The transference. This moment would become the foundation of one of the most bizarre legal defenses in American history. The Warrens insisted that when Arne invited the demon, it entered him. From that day forward, Arne's behavior began to shift. He grew distant, irritable. He claimed to see dark shadows lurking in the woods. At night, he would fall into strange trances. Debbie Glatzel, his girlfriend, later recalled how his eyes would glaze over, how his voice would deepen when he was overtaken by something she couldn't explain. To the Warrens, this was proof the devil had a new host. But what happened next would transform a story of possession into a story of blood. And the judge agreed. The possession defense was thrown out before the jury ever heard it. The trial continued as a standard murder case. But the damage was done. The story had already captured the imagination of the nation. Reporters flooded Brookfield. Cameras turned the small courthouse into a media circus. Everyone wanted to know, did demons really walk among us? Part 6. The verdict. After weeks of testimony, arguments, and speculation, the jury reached its decision. Arne Johnson was found guilty of first-degree manslaughter. Not murder, not possession, but manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison. Yet, he served only 5 years before being released. During that time, Debbie stayed by his side. The two even married while he was behind bars, a sign of her unshakable belief in his innocence. or perhaps her fear of losing him forever. But the question remained, was Arne truly possessed, or had he simply snapped in a drunken rage? The Warrens had their answer. The world wasn't so sure. Part 7. The Warrens' greatest stage. The Warrens wasted no time turning the Brookfield case into a spectacle. Television crews interviewed them. Newspapers quoted them. They appeared on talk shows, confidently declaring that they had witnessed true demonic possession. Lorraine spoke of shadowy entities. Ed insisted priests had seen the same horrors. They painted themselves not as opportunists, but as warriors against evil. For the Warrens, this case was proof. Proof that demons walked among us. Proof that their life's work was real. But to skeptics, it was proof of something else. That the Warrens were master storytellers, profiting from grief, tragedy, and fear. Books followed. Interviews spread. Hollywood listened. The Warrens had turned a brutal murder into a ghost story for the ages. Part 8. The Aftermath. While the Warrens built their legacy, the Glatzel family crumbled. David, the boy at the center of it all, struggled for years with trauma from what he endured. Later, his brother Carl Glatzel publicly denounced the Warrens. Carl claimed the entire possession story was exaggerated, even fabricated. He accused the Warrens of manipulating his family, of turning his brother's mental illness into a sideshow. He even filed a lawsuit against them, insisting that their lies had ruined lives. But the Warrens never backed down. To their dying days, they swore the possession was real. Meanwhile, Arne Johnson served his time. After his release, he built a quiet life with Debbie. They stayed together until her death in 2021. He never again committed a crime, never again claimed to be possessed. Was the demon gone? Or was there never a demon at all? Part 9. The Conjuring 3 versus reality. Decades later, Hollywood came knocking. The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, hit theaters in 2021, promising to reveal the shocking truth behind the first U.S. trial to claim demonic possession. But the film took liberties. It turned a tragic crime into supernatural spectacle, complete with cursed witches, occult conspiracies, and nightmarish demons. The truth was far simpler and far darker. A young man killed in a drunken rage. A desperate lawyer tried to save him with an impossible defense. And two demonologists spun it all into a tale of good and evil, a tale that millions would believe. The real horror wasn't what Hollywood showed. It was how easily we mistake lies for truth when fear clouds our judgment. Part 10. The Lie Exposed. So what really happened in Brookfield, Connecticut? No priest has ever confirmed the alleged exorcism. No medical records support supernatural claims. No evidence shows Arne Johnson was under demonic control. What we do have is testimony of alcohol, anger, violence, a fatal argument that ended in blood. The Warrens, critics argue, turned it into something else. They transformed a crime into a supernatural legend, one that would make them famous for decades. The devil didn't make him do it, but the Warrens made the world believe he did. The Conjuring franchise gave us thrills. It gave us chills. But behind the scares lies a warning. Sometimes the monsters are not real. Sometimes the demons are not from hell. Sometimes the true horror comes from those who tell the stories. And if that's the case, then perhaps Ed and Lorraine Warren's greatest haunting was the truth itself. If you want more secrets, more lies, and more real horrors that Hollywood refuses to tell, then stay with us. Subscribe now and step deeper into the shadows.